Another amazing interview with one of our partners, Shannon Denton from Wripple. Super excited about this conversation today. Shannon is a plethora of knowledge in the labor market space, especially in the advertising and marketing industry. Has decades of experience in the industry. I'm just going to do some quick housekeeping, then we're going to get going. Just going to double check the restream on LinkedIn Live to make sure that we're up and running there. It looks like we are live, but I just want to double check. As always, I've got Tina in the background. It says we're live, so I'm super excited. I'm just going to cue that up so I can monitor that. As usual, anybody that's here, that's attending, please use the chat to say hello. Tell us where you're from. I'm really interested to hear if you're in procurement and you're handling advertising and marketing spend. We'd love to have interactivity, as you know, so questions are always welcome. You can either put the questions in the chat or you can put it in the Q&A section. Either way, we are broadcasting out onto LinkedIn Live, as I told you. So with that, we are monitoring LinkedIn Live as well. If you are watching on LinkedIn, we are monitoring. And if you have questions, please just put it in the stream so that we can pull it in and we can ask Shannon those questions as well. So without further ado, that's a lot, and I apologize. It's a horrible introduction, an intro to a show. But Shannon, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and a little bit about your company? That would be amazing.
Yeah, Mike, first of all, super excited to be here. So thanks for having us and me. Yeah, so Shannon Denton. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Wripple. So Wripple has created what we call an agency services platform, and we give our clients access to on-demand, top quality talent. And we're going to get into a lot of that today. So I'm not going to give you too much more than that for now, but let me just give you a little bit about my background.
Sure.
So prior to Wripple, I was the global CEO of Razorfish, so pretty well-known digital marketing agency, and worked as part of the Publicis Group. And earlier in my career, I had various executive roles in professional services and consulting, but actually started out, I have a computer science degree, and started out writing a lot of code and doing software development. So Wripple is kind of a cool opportunity for me because I took all of this knowledge I gained as an executive leader in the agency world, in the marketing world, and then all of my initial background when I was in my 20s of cranking out software, put those two together and have built a platform with the rest of the team to really provide a brand new way to secure on-demand talent to do work. And so really excited about where Wripple is and going forward.
That's amazing. I didn't know you were a coder, man. I mean, we've known each other a long time. So I met Shannon back in the day when I worked at Publicis Group, and Publicis Group acquired Razorfish, and I was part of the team that came in and helped kind of with the transition into Publicis. And I didn't know, but it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, you get a massive digital advertising agency. It's Seattle. I think everybody in Seattle has to know code. I think the baristas at Starbucks know how to code, right? So, so it just makes sense. I didn't realize that you were actually a coder. So that's really cool. Congratulations on Wripple. How long has Wripple been up and running so far?
Yeah, so we started the company in very late 2018 and booked our first revenue in 2019. So about 2.5 years old at this point. Yeah. So young company, moving quickly though. And obviously we had the pandemic in between. So that certainly was interesting, but yeah.
So we're going to talk a lot about labor, the labor market, transient labor, freelancers, with a twist towards advertising and marketing today, because obviously that's where the genesis of Wripple comes from. And I want to talk a little bit about just the general labor market and your thoughts on that so far. Then I want to talk about the platforms that are emerging, like the one that you've built, because I think that's really amazing. Then I want to talk a little bit about the future, and from a visionary perspective, I want you to put your Carmack hat on and tell me a little bit about what you see as the future. So let's jump right into labor markets for a second. There's a dynamic shift that's taking place in the labor market, right? Especially in advertising and marketing, but in general as a whole. I mean, Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on where we are. I mean, we were doing this in the pre discussion, and you ran me from post World War II
Oh
all the way
yeah,
through to
yeah, yeah.
today. So tell me your thoughts on where the labor market is today. I'd love to hear it.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's a extremely interesting time for sure, and yeah, and actually I was mentioning earlier, Mike, when we were talking, McKinsey came out with an article a few weeks ago, and they're talking about the hybrid workforce of today, and they compared it to other shifts in the labor market as being that profound and that big of an impact. So
Wow.
going back to the Industrial Revolution, where people went into factories in the late 1800s, to the post-World War II era, where women came into the workforce really for the first time, and then into the 80s and the digital age when we had pagers, email, and PCs. And now we have this post-COVID effect where there's this hybrid working model where, over 65-70% of people are saying they want to work from home at least 2 or 3 days a week. And about 40% of people globally are saying they're going to leave their current workforce. And so, and if you look at the statistics, they say the executive leaders are still kind of hoping things return back to normal, where everybody's in the office. So we've got this time where we're trying to figure out what is this hybrid model? How does that all work? And that's going to fundamentally change a lot of different things. It's actually more complicated to implement a hybrid model than it is 100% remote, because you have some people coming in at different times of the week. And it's just very challenging to navigate. And then I think of two other factors. Obviously, diversity and inclusion. Today, how do you find that, how do you change old habits, old behaviors, and make sure you have a strong D&I culture? And then the third aspect is what we're talking about today. It's the rise of these platforms, and how do you view your workforce more as a workforce ecosystem and plug into on-demand labor in new ways, instead of thinking I need to hire these people full-time and build my staff and my organization up with full-time headcount. So if you think about those three factors, hybrid, D&I, the rise of platforms and marketplaces in terms of how they impact the workforce ecosystem, it's certainly a lot of changes going on right now in the labor market.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect storm, to be honest with you. I look at it as, I mean, there's so many contributing factors to get us to where we are today, right? One of them is the evolution, as you said, as diversity inclusion, which is a major topic. The heavy influence of women into the marketplace. The next generation, the millennial generation, who somehow is really fighting the tide on work-life balance. The introduction of hyper technologies based on the internet that allow for a lot of this. Yeah. Then you've got a global pandemic, which now forces everybody not to go to the marketplace and go to the workplace, and literally shows, the back office operators, the CEOs, the heads of HR, the heads of facilities, hey, listen, we can actually function as a company without getting together on Madison Avenue, right? Yeah. And it's a really interesting time. I mean, you take all those things together and stick them into a pressure cooker, you got a really interesting stew that's taking place.
Yeah, with very unclear, there's no framework that is accepted on how this is all going to come together, right?
No, it's never been done before, right?
Exactly.
It's really never been done before. And it's, you're starting to find things like, oh my God, we can actually operate a multi-global national company without people at the offices. And you're seeing some of the large tech firms just abandon their campuses, which was, the foothold of where they were, right? I mean, they were building small universities, and now look at what's happening. And if you think about the geographic displacement of that theory, the platforms like Ripple that you're building are the personification of that movement, just in the labor space, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how people are going to source labor. So it's just an amazingly interesting time. I mean, for me, procurement. So I know you're not a procurement person. I know you're an operator, and I'm a procurement person, although we've met and crossed paths in years in the past. And things like people like myself, what we're always trying to do because you have to understand something, everybody. Shannon used to be one of my clients. Like, I used to bring things to all of the CEOs of all of the agencies back in the day. And the one thing I really strive to do as a support service for folks like Shannon is I want to be educated in bringing new ideas to the table. When the head of HR and benefits comes to me and says, hey, we've got a 20% natural attrition rate, what is going on? How can procurement potentially or sourcing potentially help us? What ideas do you have on the table? These are the types of things that procurement professionals, sourcing professionals who are supporting HR departments, who are supporting internal marketing and advertising departments need to understand. Because when you bring ideas like this to the table, like the emergence of labor platforms like Ripple to the table, all of a sudden everybody turns around and goes, wait a minute, that procurement guy at the end of the table actually said something intelligent. Can you repeat that? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so for us, we're always striving to not just be the people who cut POs. We're trying to find new and exciting things to introduce and go from tactical to strategic. Again, for everybody that's listening, for everybody inside of the Procurement Foundry, this is yet another example of something really, really smart that you can bring to the table and up your game and up your positioning. We're always talking about that, how to transition from the tactical discussions to strategic. This is strategic sourcing in the labor marketplace, and educating your stakeholders on that. Obviously, you're being asked to, and procurement people are being asked more and more to help in the labor sourcing or the professional services sourcing, which we'll talk about that as well, because I know your platform offers a little bit around transient labor, but also offers services in the form of projects, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I want to stick on the labor market for one more second. So in your opinion, what's wrong with the old model? What doesn't work there? I mean, we talked about a lot of stuff already, but what's not?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think if you just think about how companies have historically gotten outside talent, if they're either, temporary talent or full-time talent, it's, if you think about how antiquated it is. So it's, staffing firms, recruiting firms, even agencies and consultancies. Again, I love agencies. I love consultancies. I've been in those businesses, run those businesses, but that model's been in place for what, 50, 60 years. I mean, it's a very manual process. It's hard to compare apples. It's apples to oranges. You get proposals, come back. It's not clear who's including what in the pricing. It's slow. It takes like 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get RFPs, to go through an RFP evaluation, to get bids, come in, they pitch you in person. And then, after they leave, you like somebody, and then when the project starts, the people that were in the room don't even show up to kick off the project. It's a brand new team that you didn't even know. And so I think the aspect of just, it's slow. It's there's a lot of overhead you're paying for with offices, travel, executive salaries. So it's not as cost effective as it could be. In the transparency, it's not presenting true optionality because it's apples to oranges, and the transparency is just not in line with what, a lot of other ways that a lot of other things you're buying today. And so
it's just not efficient. It's just not efficient, right?
Right.
I mean, from running agencies in the past, and me from walking the floors in agencies in the past, and other organizations as well. When you're in the billable professional services business space, I don't care if you're a law firm or professional services, advertising, marketing firm, whatever it is that you're a part of. If you're not making combine harvesters, there are downtimes where there are spats of non-billable time. And that's when the pro bono projects always show up, right? And it's like, all right, let's just keep the kids thinking about something. We got to keep the creative juices flowing, but you're not billing anybody, right? And it's just a really inefficient model. And then to put them on Madison Avenue, or to put them in Chicago, on West Wacker, or to put them in even in Seattle and places like that. This is category A real estate, man. It's expensive stuff, right? I mean, I know I watched all the money, right? So, listen, about 10 years, I think it was about 10 years ago, somebody, and I forgot who it was, somebody came up and coined the term, the gig economy, right? This almost feels to me like it's the evolution of the gig economy. Like, the gig economy is a really cool thing. We got Jobber, we got Fiverr, we got, a bunch of people who were out there, doing Photoshop and things like that. I thought that was really cool. This is an evolution of that, right? This is 2.0 of the gig economy, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think, some of the notions of the gig economy, I think what we're talking about is really truly white collar, professional talent, and more, and like you mentioned earlier, really solutions, holistic solutions
Yeah.
that are being adopted by bigger companies. Not just a way to, jump in an Uber and get to the store, get to the bar on a Friday night. This is definitely something where it moves into professional B2B, getting, white collar professionals as part of this. And so it's a very different flavor. And in fact, you don't hear as much about the gig economy in terms of what we do. It's really talking about sort of this on-demand workforces, and again, this sort of workforce ecosystem, and how do you use technology to sort of build that and play with that. So, yeah.
What's the mindset on the current HR team and the current practitioners, the chief marketing officers? I mean, where is their mindset at? Are they still at? I mean, I know you've got some amazing statistics for me around where permanent labor versus transient labor and contingent labor and freelancers was. Where's the mindset at right now? Are they ready to adopt this? What are the numbers? Let's talk a little bit about what's happening inside of those departments, because I think it's a micro view into the larger enterprise anyway, across all holdings, across all the different departments.
Yeah, and I'd say so if you look at a few years ago, for the most part, any sort of, whether it be an internal IT, whether it be an in-house agency, they did have a vision on, some percentage of the labor dollars should come from temporary or contract labor or outside labor. That number in the 10, 15, 20% range, I would say, was probably the norm or average.
Yeah.
And what we're hearing now is we're hearing companies, be it or the agencies we work with, the in-house agencies that are coming forward and saying, given the way business works and the way the work we need to get done, we believe that we should hire full-time, maybe 25, 50%, and go outside to these platforms to get on-demand talent, the rest of the 50%, or even up to 75% of the talent. And a lot of that is driven by specialization. So I need so many different types of people at different points. It's about getting the right person at the right time. So if I've got a project that starts next week, I may need these 3 types of people. If I've got a project, another project that starts in a couple of months, I need these 7 different types of people. And so you're actually leveraging this sort of concept of getting the right people at the right time and tapping in externally to pull those people in. And then you don't pay for them if you don't need them. So I think the concept of only paying for what you need when you need it is driving a much higher percentage of on-demand labor through marketplaces or platforms, as opposed to hiring the labor full-time internally. And that's the trend that we're seeing.
That's amazing to me that agencies are going down that path and have gone down that path, where they were at 10 or 15 or 20% of transient labor or freelancers or whatever you want to, whatever sticker you want to put on them. And now they're up to, in some cases, up to 70, 75%. I mean, it's a complete 180 from where they were. I think there's something really interesting that you just touched on. I want to go back to for a second. In-house agencies. So I've been watching this trend in Procurement Foundry for some time now, which is the emergence of advertising and marketing as a category management inside of procurement departments. This is not something that's old school. This is fairly new for most chief procurement officers, because up until recently, most procurement departments and most CPOs just allowed the chief marketing officers of the world to have their own budgets. They kind of ran their own thing. The CMO came in and went, yeah, all right, I'll let you buy my Adobe licensing, and maybe I'll let you buy my Getty Images contract. Other than that, stay the heck out. I don't want you talking about my production studios. I don't want you talking about any of that, right? And what's happened in the last, I want to say 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, is this need, and you see it in the recruiting and in the job listings in procurement. There is a massive need inside of procurement organizations to now cover advertising and marketing related spend. And I think the driver for that, quite candidly, is brand related, in-house related chief marketing officers are moving their agency dependency in-house. And because of that, all of a sudden they're saying, oh my God, I want to stop my dependency on agencies, even in some areas, right? Whether it's digital, non-digital,
Sure.
but they don't have the negotiation expertise. So now they're knocking on the chief procurement officer's door and going, "Hey, I really need some support here because I'm buying a lot more stuff than I have in the past." And this is a perfect example of where a chief procurement officer probably now has a fairly new, meaning last couple of years, category manager in advertising and marketing related spend, and they're probably now starting to be asked by their chief marketing officer, who's their stakeholder, their client, and their boss, the chief procurement officer, "Hey, now I need your support in labor. We're doing more and more projects in-house," right? And because we're doing more and more projects in-house, number one, the chief marketing officer doesn't have FTE headcount, so he's got to do it on a project basis. So that is, again, another reason why the evolution this is another dynamic that's taking place. Add it to all the other 7 we talked about earlier. The migration, right? I mean, that's huge, right? The migration to in-house agency, even if it's 10 or 15 or 20%, is a massive market shift.
Oh, absolutely. And I agree with you. It's been really the last 5 to 7 years. I remember when I was at Razorfish, the Publicis group, and we were seeing these data points come in, and it took off before COVID, and even faster. There's a lot of press during COVID of how in-house agencies, internal agencies, actually got more and more of the work because they were considered to be closer to the business, and they could move faster. And sort of, when you were trying to figure out what you're going to do in the COVID here, what are you going to say, how are you going to change, they were very a strategic lever that companies were utilizing. And so those guys are our friends at Wripple. So we work with in-house agencies, and like you said, they bring in transient labor or when they need it to complement their existing FTEs. And so that's something that's a great fit for us. But continue to grow in importance is the in-house agency. And it is a new line item, to your point.
It's very interesting that you're seeing and that you're denoting the advertising and marketing industry people going from 20 to 7% transient, or what I'll call fluid labor, right?
Yeah, that's a great word.
Fluid labor versus others. But I think if you're seeing, I'm starting to see it in some of the hyper-growth startups as well. Some of the hyper-growths are saying, "Hey, listen, a lot of the folks that are being sponsored by incubators, they're like, listen, at all costs, don't bring on an FTE," right? I mean, FTE is, if you want a venture capital person to walk away from you quickly, the first thing you need to tell them is that you're going to start stacking and racking FTEs. They're like, "No, absolutely not. That's not what we want you to spend our money." Right? So
and a little bit back to what's going on in the marketing department too. I just want to for the procurement professionals. I mean, I think that the challenge marketers face today, which is a real challenge, is we just have the last 7-8 years, the tech proliferation, the channel proliferation. What's happened is the amount of work, the complexity of the work is growing tremendously. And so marketers have to you got to do something on LinkedIn, Facebook, Pinterest, now TikTok. You've got all these, you mentioned some platforms, you got Adobe, you got HubSpot, you got MailChimp, you got all these data, you got these DMPs, whatever. And so the amount of work that has to get done, the velocity of the work, the volume, the complexity is like 3-5x of what it was 10 years ago. And so, and marketers to succeed actually have to do that. So it's not the problem is not the amount of work. It's really, they've got to think about different ways, an ecosystem way of getting it done. So a lot of this type of work, you know what I mean? A lot of work can get done with more of these platforms where you can grab a team to do a 6-week project, crank it out, get it done. It's a lot more cost effective. And so that's the challenge, and why marketing is such a great fit for what our discussion today. It's just the changes that have happened have put the pipeline of work is just tremendous today for marketers. And so that's
again, I don't mean to keep whipping the horse here, but another driving dynamic is the fact that the Loom Escape now has like 8,000 to 10,000 technology MarTech services.
Absolutely.
You can't possibly learn them all, right? And think about it. All of a sudden, your client, your marketing and advertising client, or you're a procurement person and your chief marketing officer says, oh my God, I need an automated marketing person. Our new client has a massive HubSpot deployment. I need you to go out and find me somebody because we got an in-house marketing project and I need a HubSpot expert, right? Or God forbid, he doesn't have the or he's going to throw that on some FTE. Not only do they have to do 10 times the work because they're expecting your clients expecting the automation, but they have to learn HubSpot at the same time.
That's right.
Right. In most cases, they have to learn one of these 8,000 new products in the Loom Escape. And it's like, okay, you can't do it. You can't learn every emerging platform. So the diversity of labor on a platform where you can go into a platform and go, okay, give me a HubSpot expert with 3 years of experience, who understands landing pages, who understands automated workflow process, understands Zapier. By the way, in addition to my CRM tool being, HubSpot, I also have a Zapier solution where we use, I don't know, something else, and I need an expert there's experts just in Zapier connections now, which I think is amazing. All right, so
you're throwing out Zapier. You're impressing me with that one.
My Zapier bill at Procurement Foundry is enormous. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we use it as well. So
well, I have an associate's degree now in HubSpot. You can't run a community, an industry community with 5,000 people and try and keep track of everybody without becoming a CRM person. So yes, I picked the CRM tool. But I'm also learning that, hey, I need this to deal with my conferencing platform, and I need this. So I do geek out on the weekends. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not a coder. I speak geek, but I'm not a geek.
Yeah, I'm not a coder anymore either, though.
I say that with all the affection in the world to the geeks of the world, because I know you run the world. All right, let's talk. Let's transition. Quick question for you from the audience, and this is a good segue into let's talk about the platforms. Yudita says, I can see how good this can be for corporations, but why would contingent workers in this tight labor market choose gigs unless they pay well enough to sustain them during marketing downtimes? Right?
Yeah.
So great question about that. I think I want to jump into the rise of the platforms with you. Let's just jump in on this. Why are platforms like this good for practitioners versus the corporations?
Yeah, so our talent members, as we call them, so the freelancers on the platform. So one of the things that when you get to know a lot of the independent workers or freelancers, they don't love doing a couple things. One, they don't really like business development or trying to hustle to find jobs. And so a platform like Wripple actually is a lead gen channel for them. And so they, and they have full discretion. It's kind of like, your Uber driver can turn down your drive if he wants to. So they get invited to a brief. They're on our platform, and they can quickly see what the client's budget is, what the work is, what the rate, and they can decide to do the job or not. And so it's a new lead channel for them for something they don't like to do. The second thing is we get them paid, and we pay them independently. We go hustle. We get the payment from the clients, and they will get paid independently of that. And so they don't like to be collections people. One of our creative freelancers, even our software engineering tech people, they hate going and collecting bills. And so we handle that. And then essentially we have an operating system for their business. And so they can use it. And then I'll mention one thing that's very unique to Wripple is that because we provide a way for you to hire whole teams of people, this concept of teaming up with other freelancers is something they can do on the platform. And if you're not part of a team, it's very difficult for you to get access to the strategic long-term work. And so what we do is we put them with others, complementary skill sets. So to mention your example of HubSpot, we may have a HubSpot designer, a Zapier expert on the team, and maybe somebody that just knows how to set up HubSpot, a technical person. And so you can put those on a team and say, hey, this is a solution team for HubSpot / landing page campaigns. And that will allow them to move themselves up the ladder and get more strategic and more assignments than if I'm out there as a standalone person, as a HubSpot email designer trying to sling myself individually. And so the team concept is very important to our freelancers in terms of giving them new opportunities for work.
Yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about I mean, there's a lot to peel back there. I
Yeah.
want to get into some of the functionality of the platform, especially yours, right? Around aggregating what I consider to be unknown entities, freelancers, or consultants, or whatever we want to call them. You call them talent members, right? Talent members who don't know each other. One of the things I think that's amazing about the run through that I did on your platform was the fact that you can take unknown talent members and aggregate them together as a team, and they can work as a team together.
Yeah.
So that's one of the answers that I think to the question is the benefit is the ability for you to team up with people that you don't necessarily know, the ability for you to be able to have what I would call side hustle cash if your primary job allows it. So you can do staff augmentation. A lot of people that I find in the procurement industry and in Procurement Foundry love their day jobs, want to keep them, enjoy the benefits, love the fact that they've been with the company 15 years, but they want to augment that income. They got a kid going to college, they need a vacation plan, whatever they want. They want $10,000 to put into cryptocurrency markets. I don't know, whatever the heck they want, but they want a side hustle cash. And they're not going to jump on Fiverr and create logos and do things like this. As you said earlier, the emergence, what I call the evolution of the gig economy, is this new white collar, transient labor, contingent labor marketplace, which now allows you as a white collar employee to be able to market your goods and services. And you are 1000% correct. I've never met anybody, whether they're an advertising marketing person, a legal person, an HR person, a procurement person, a facilities management guy, I don't care who it is. Nobody wants to be in the business of the business. They don't want to do the marketing. They don't want to do the bookkeeping. They certainly don't want to be the collection agent. They barely want to sell themselves. They just want to be able to come in, do what they do, and let somebody else handle the rest for a fee and call it a day, right? So I love everything that you're talking about. I'm assuming all of this was the contributing factor in why you decided to make this. I got a question here that says, what drove you to build the platform? But I think just listening to you, I understand what drove you to build this platform.
Yeah. I mean, the value on both sides. I mean, it really is, we see it as a do good on both sides. So it's a two-sided marketplace. So on the buyer side, we have both brands or clients as well as agencies. And on the seller side, we have freelancers. And it does good on both sides. I mean, for, again, the clients, they get a new way to get top talent very quickly, very efficiently, more transparency. And then obviously we talked about the benefits on the talent side. And clearly, with us, the founders of Wripple, being executives at Razorfish, we just kept hearing from our clients for a lot of the work we were doing, not all of it, a lot of it, there's got to be another way. We've got to get this faster. We need these people to come on now and then go away in a week. And so we just heard this happening and we knew there had to be another way. And so we said, hey, we've got to create this platform. And it really is a do-good platform on both sides.
So we talked a little bit about the benefits of platforms like this, but I know there's more, right? There's speed to market, there's cost, there's compliance. What are the big 5 or 6 things that platforms like this will handle for procurement people as a whole?
Absolutely. So I think there's just explain a little bit how it works. You go out on the platform, you can buy in 2 ways. You can either buy expert resources for hourly rates, and you can say, I've got a project, I need 3 people. These are the roles I need. And then you can get multiple bids from different people you're interested in, interview them and hire them. And so that's one route. The second route is you buy deliverables for a fixed price. So to play off what we've been talking about, I need a HubSpot campaign with 3 templates that integrates using Zapier back to my core system. That's going to cost you, Ripple will estimate that for you. It's going to cost, $7,000, $7,200. You see teams of people, you get multiple proposals. You you interview one of the teams and then you hire them. All that happens in under a week. So from start to finish with full transparency, you immediately know the pricing. You can get, talk to the teams and the individuals as many times as you want. You basically, it's all automated. So you're using the tool to have communications and back and forth. And from a speed standpoint, and then you have the benefits of tech. So we don't have all the layers of, when you go to a staffing firm or a big agency where you have all the offices and the markups and all that sort of thing. It's a very efficient model. And so it's faster, it's efficient, it's transparent. And, you get the concept, I always talk to the procurement, you get the concept of the triple bid, or you can do a quadruple bid. So I can go out there and say, I need this HubSpot, email project, and here's 4 teams. I get proposals from them. I compare the bids, and I kick off the project in a week. So that's pretty much how it works.
I think it's amazing. I think I got to tell you, man, I don't get wowed very often, right? I mean, I've been buying software platforms for every function of the company for 20 years plus now, and I've sat through more demos than one of our ex-presidents had liver pills, right? And I don't get impressed very often with something. Running through, and I don't want to, again, as Procurement Foundry, we don't publicly endorse any products or services. I want to throw that out there. But I got to be honest with you, you blew me away when I saw this thing the first time. I mean, blew me away. The fact that people, it's just so, it's so amazing to me how much this changes the strategy around how I'm sourcing talent, right? It strips away the geography. It strips away it just makes me nauseous to think about the recruiting and the evaluation. It's almost like, I mean, I saw this thing and I saw the program and I thought to myself, my God, it's Airbnb for talent. That's what it looks like to me.
No doubt. Very great analogy. In fact, I mean, honestly, like our product designers look at Airbnb quite a bit. In terms of how it's designed, and we've for sure. Yeah.
And I was blown away when I thought that the thing, and again, back to my folks. I don't want to, listen, I want to be real careful here because my community is going to call me out on this. I can tell you that right now. But I was blown away when I thought, okay, I can go find a HubSpot person with 5 years of experience and on side hustle cash, or whether they're an independent contractor, and I can interview them and build an SOW on the fly and all those wonderful things. Yeah. And I can find a gunslinger, right? I can find a gunslinger that has what I need, or a couple gunslingers that have what I need. That's great in a project. Then I found out, oh my God, we could do this on a project basis of like, okay, I need a full setup of a HubSpot and an integration into my existing marketing tools. And who's the company that's going to help me do that? Or, hey, I'm in a new product release for a pharmaceutical product that's go-to market. And I need a team that's going to do a digital product release in the advertising, because Ripple focuses on advertising marketing. I need a team or a firm that is going to come work with my pharmaceutical firm or my biotech firm and do a digital product release campaign, design, strategy, implementation, and management for me, right? That's a project. That's a massive project. And you can go into these platforms, including Ripple. You can go into Ripple and look at a project like that, and it'll show you the firms, and it will, and this is the part that just melted my face off, it'll take all the independent contractors that you have inside of the thing and attempt to create a virtual team that could fulfill that need as well. Yeah. And I just sat there and I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah. Like this thing just changed. To me, it must have been like, the first time somebody went to the horse track back in the 1800s and went, okay, I used to only be able to bet on the horse to win, but now I can do trifectas and quinellas, and it's like, whoa, it went from a 2-dimensional idea to a 3-dimensional idea. Oh, when it went from, I can hire an individual person and do a lookup, right? Because I can do that, and I can do that in LinkedIn and some other things.
That's right.
But now I can do this whole thing, and I can contract, and you handle all the mess and the money. Yeah. I was like, wow, amazing. Okay, so.
Yeah, and I still have a question, Mike, if you don't mind. Does Ripple hold the contract? We do hold the contract. So the way we work is, on the buy side, our clients basically, when they hire a team or an individual, Ripple gets paid. We have the contract, and then we have contracts with all the freelancers. They're called independent contractor agreements, and we fully hold the contractors accountable for any non-disclosures or language and that sort of thing. But you pay Ripple, we handle all the contracts. And that's a big benefit that we didn't talk about. today, with all the labor legislation around gig workers, classification risk of are they full-time employees, we're absolute experts on that. And so we basically allow you access to contract freelance labor, and you don't have to worry about the compliance and the risk, because our language, our master agreement with our clients, we take on the risk of compliance, and we make sure there's about a 12 checkpoint, 12 different things we got to do that will guarantee compliance and minimal risk. And so we do all those within Ripple, and we handle all that on behalf of our clients.
Yeah, which to me, that's worth the cost of admission right there, right? I was going to ask the question, what are the risks associated with this? So what are the intrinsic risks that you see? And then also, but I have a question from the audience that I want to get to for a second. So somebody in the audience is connecting the dots really quick. Edward on LinkedIn. Do you cover sales teams and implementation teams? Which is interesting, right? So Edward is immediately taking this down the rabbit hole even further. I'll ask the question from a Mark. Again, let's go back to the Loom Escape for a second, right? Are you seeing anyone? I know you originally started Ripple as a platform for people to find advertising and marketing related talent as it for agency related or what agency style work, right?
Yeah.
But right. Are you starting to see people coming to Ripple and saying, "Hey, I need a HubSpot deployment. I need an implementation team"?
Oh yeah, no, I want to be clear. We're doing that. All of the major platforms, we have teams of people to do that. And so that's one thing that I just want to be clear. We're not just about creative or advertising people. We've got data scientists on the platform, tech people that are experts in all the major MarTech stack, the Loom Escape stuff, as you call it. And we've got 35 different roles on the platform, ranging from product designer, UX designer, copywriters, creative, all the way down to full stack engineers, front-end developers, data science experts, analytics experts. And so it's a full spectrum, and it covers a lot of the tech work, and certainly all the tech work in the marketing space for sure. And actually e-commerce too. So we've got, we're doing several right now, e-commerce project, with the obviously the growth and direct to consumer, and even accelerated by COVID. We're doing a lot of e-commerce work through the platform for our clients as well.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about adoption. So where is the adoption to talent platforms coming from? Is it coming from the HR departments? Is it coming from what we call the stakeholders, aka the chief marketing officer or the head of digital marketing? Is it coming from those departments? Is it coming from HR, or are you starting to see procurement people starting to dive in who are handling those in-house and agency stuff?
I will say that the only consistent place it's coming from is, it's very inconsistent. So it's come from all of those places at least a couple of different occasions where, the head of talent, if the talent is sort of looking at different, or HR is looking at different ways to source, then it certainly has come from there. It's very common. We talked earlier about the head of marketing, in-house agencies and stuff.
Yeah.
They're starting to realize the potential. But yeah, I mean, we're probably having conversations, had one with a huge company in the procurement department last week, in fact, that had looked at, platforms was on her radar, and she actually had looked at platforms in other categories, not in the Ripple category, but other categories, and had looked at some of the really big players that are not category specific, if you've heard of Upwork or what have you. And so we're seeing it. I think to your point earlier at the kickoff of this, I think there's a big opportunity though for procurement professionals to bring these ideas, because I would say we've probably demoed Ripple to 150 companies the last 12, 15 months, and maybe 7 times they had seen a demo of any sort of platform available to do this. So it's like 5%, awareness, 5 to 7% kind of thing. So
I think the key to this thing, and when we're offline, I talk to people about folks and things that I'm seeing that I think are exciting, and this is one of them. And a lot of people have been like, oh, okay, so like it's Fiverr. And I'm like, no, man, this is not Fiverr. Fiverr to me is a blue collar. Hey, I need a logo. Hey, I want a little bit of this. This really is the next step up. This is, hey, I need somebody to run a campaign for me. I need somebody to help me start building out a strategy for me. I mean, this, and like you said, there's data scientists on this thing. You're not going to go to Fiverr and find a data scientist. Right?
Yeah, no, I mean, the way, Fiverr's a great company. They're actually doing great.
Yeah,
Fiverr,
don't get me wrong. I think it feels an amazing need, but
$150 gigs. It's primarily made up of, it's low cost labor to do repeated tasks, and 95% of their market is companies under 50 people. So that's just to give you an idea. They're playing the mom and pop space. I've got $50 to spend on a logo. I've got $300 to spend on my whole website. That's completely different. The market we play in, teams of people do the work, right? You don't have one jack of all trades that plays every single role and does it all. This is where you typically have a team of people, and that's the market we're in. And that's why we typically work with at least upper mid-market and enterprise organizations or agencies that are doing projects for those big companies. That's who we're working with. It's not the small businesses that we're working with.
Yeah. All right. We've got some questions. I wanted to jump into personally. I wanted to jump into like what you think is the future. I'm going to stay here because we get a lot of people asking a lot of questions. I think there's some amazing parts about the future. We can talk a little bit about how companies might use this to expand out their platforms and their service offerings, how people could create virtual partnerships on platforms like this with other subject matter experts. Yeah. Right. I want to talk about that, but I want to do a time check. We got 15 minutes. I want to get some questions in. Deborah says, so is the contract held by Ripple? We've talked about that. Go ahead. You can answer that real quickly.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about it earlier. Yeah.
Yep. So just give me a little bit on that. So the contract's held by Ripple. So you're holding the risk associated with you as an entity. You're holding the risk associated with the deliverables, right? You're basically guaranteeing the deliverables of these consultants. So you must have a pretty hefty vetting process for people that you allow into your platform, because ultimately you're kind of vouching for them, right?
Yeah, no, that's great. Actually, we didn't talk about that yet. So we have a two-step vetting process required by every talent member on our platform. And they go through the first round, which is a video conversation, which we call more of an HR, a cultural type assessment. And then they go through, we have an expert in their capability area. Like if it's a data scientist or a developer, we would have an senior expert vet them in that. And we actually have a very quantitative system of scoring. So we score them across 8 dimensions, and we have over 650 skills total. Typically for a given role, like if it's a software developer, we'd evaluate them across 25 to 30 skills. Mm-hmm. And then we have an overall score. And if their score is high enough, they get allowed on the platform. And that score is also utilized in our matching algorithm. So when you go out there and search for talent, we will come back with an overall match score. I'll often compare it to a Netflix. So if you're looking at Netflix, it says this matches your profile 80%, 85, whatever. So our clients see a match score, and then you can drill into the individual scores in each area. And so you're provided with a wealth of data and knowledge, and you know that these people on Ripple have been vetted with over 2 hours of conversations and assessments that allowed them to get on the platform. But yeah, so the talent, you're right. I mean, we hold if it's time and materials or hourly rates, we have a replacement guarantee if they're not working out. And then if it's fixed price or deliverable based, then we're essentially on the hook for the quality of the deliverables.
Okay. So we've got a couple of questions here that are asking questions around. One of them is, I'm curious if there's a similar gig player for gig player, meaning the talent platform for matching procurement professionals up with companies that need short-term labor for RFPs, specific vendor negotiations, et cetera, for required skill sets. And then there's another one that says, is there a standard Ripple and a Ripple that is specific to procurement PF and sourcing projects? What's the action to get signed up as a contracting resource? Okay, so here's it. I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, no.
All right. So Procurement Foundry, Shannon and I, and Procurement Foundry, we are in the process of a partnership agreement where we will be bringing a marketplace like this, and we've been working on it for a couple of months now. We have something coming in the future for the procurement industry as a whole. Shannon and Wripple focus very, very heavily, as he's been discussing, on advertising and marketing. I think it's very, very important. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. We're working on it. Give us another 30 days. We've got some interesting stuff. This is something that obviously lays over into a lot of back office operational space. Shannon and I are extremely excited to be working together on this project. And we think that we'll have something for all of you in the procurement space if you want to put your services to good use in the near future. So one thing I did want to mention to you, Shannon, is, and one person said to me, just curious, I don't think you've mentioned it, how many folks, how many marketing and advertising related independent contractors do you currently have on the platform?
Yeah, we have about 850 on the platform as of this week. Yeah.
I mean, 850 independent contractors, consultants, subject matter experts. You gotta be getting to a point where you're at critical mass, where inbound search people can basically find anything they're looking for.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, obviously we're still adding. Right now, we're adding 10 people a week, so we're still growing. But again, we're not playing a numbers game where we get a bunch of anonymous signups and we're trying to get 100,000 people. We're about highly vetted top talent and quality work, and so it will continue to be a heavily curated number of people on our platform.
Yeah, as one gentleman that I know really, really well, who's kind of the messiah of communities, once said, it's not necessarily the size of the community, it's the quality of the people within the community.
That's right.
Right. So that said, is there a geographical breakdown on this? There's a follow-up question to that. Is that 850 in the US? Is it international? Do you see people coming in from other geographies because of the virtual nature of it?
Yeah, so we do. So today we're US and Canada centric, and so our resources are primarily out of US and Canada. We do have some outside in South America and other locations, but today, given where we are, our requirement is that they have a US or North America based legal entity. And so right now we would be seen as a source for US and Canadian talent primarily. In some cases that's not true, but overall that's generally how to think of us today. Obviously this will be global. It's just a matter of, we've got so much going on with our customers here until we get to the global expansion. So.
All right, let's jump back to forward thinking. We've got about 7 minutes left. I answered a lot of the questions that are out there. So thank you all for the interaction. I really, really appreciate it. Shannon, I want to talk a little bit about the future of this thing, right? And some of the really unique opportunities that exist here. So one of the things you talked about is the ability for companies as a whole. So let's say you're running a small advertising, and we talked a lot about in-house, but let's talk about the agencies themselves, because I know a lot of agencies are your clients as well, and they're using this as a tool to staff up when they get that next project, right? Yeah. So is it possible, let's talk a little bit about agencies or companies as a whole who now have the ability via your platforms to be able to test the markets on something new, a new product offering, and they can go find the talent inside of your community, inside of your platform, and potentially do a market test on a product. So something that's a real potential value to companies. But then I also want to talk a little bit about, really quickly in the next 4 or 5 minutes, about how, go back to that thought of independent contractors / subject matter experts being able to get together virtually and create almost a pseudo corporation to provide a service, right? Yeah. So that's where I see this all going. Am I accurate? This is where this is going.
Yeah, no, it's the first point on services companies. So if anybody's ever in a services company, or be it an agency or consulting or tech shop, it's always a question of what services you offer, and you want to increase your client footprint or your revenue per customer. How do you add services? And in the past, the mindset was, well, I can go hire somebody who's an expert, a practice leader, or whatever you want, a business unit leader, and they can bring on a bunch of people, and I can sort of bear the organic risk and the cost of doing that.
Yep.
What's happened a ton the last 10 years has been I can go acquire a company and pay like a 5 to 10x multiple and acquire a company in that space. And now with these platforms, you could really take, for example, an agency that didn't have e-commerce capability. So we talked about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of going and hiring a practice lead for e-commerce and hiring a team of 10 people, you basically use the Wripple platform to plug into on-demand e-commerce experts and teams. And you can actually start to sell those services in a matter of weeks or days, instead of going and spending a 5 to 10x multiple on acquiring a company or hiring a practice lead at, six figures, and then hiring the team underneath them and taking the risk. Is this going to work or not? And so it just provides a really interesting way of expanding service and offering mix without having to bear cost and risk, at least from the get-go. Now, you may decide to hire some people full-time after it's working, but you don't have to do that up front. And so that's an interesting thing that we talk about with a lot of our clients on the professional services side.
Even if you are looking at an acquisition, you might use this to build a case for the acquisition and go, hey, listen, we brought in some temps, we figured it out, we proved that there's a marketplace. Now we're going to go make that acquisition, and we're going to, you know what I mean? You could use it as an onboarding ramp.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really cool. All right, real quick, let's talk about the individual members, right? The talent members, and how I see it in the future, almost like virtual corporations that get spun up and spun down with ownership, distribution of revenue against the entire community, like the whole thing. Like I see it as, hey, I might have an e-commerce guy, but I need an e-commerce guy and a UI developer for a website, and together they get the business, because individually they won't. And they're going to do a 50-50 market shift between the two, right? I mean, a 50-50 rev share between the two, because they won't get the job independently, but together they make a company that does the service that somebody needs.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting thought. And like, so what we do, let me just explain what we do today. And I think it's very interesting. You're taking it to a whole nother level. So what we do today is you can sign up with your buddies and create a collective. And so instead of having to start your own agency and create an LLC, do the paper or whatever, C Corp, do the paperwork, all that, you basically could say, hey, Mr. Developer, best friend, and Mr. UI designer, let's form a little collective on Wripple and put us up there, and you have your own marketing page, and you can name yourself, whatever you want to name yourself. And so they can do that today. Now, I like your idea, though. The next level of that is there some sort of interesting, where it becomes corporate-like, where it becomes more like
there's some governance to it, right?
Some governance to it. Whereas right now it's more like what I described, where your freelance friends and colleagues, you can sign up as sort of a collective. But I like your thought of, does that become some sort of governance? There's some sort of governance or entity there that you could structure some revenue sharing and maybe other incentives to bring it together. That's a very, or it could be an initial step to maybe creating your own company. I don't know. It's an interesting thought, though.
I see it almost as an incubator.
Yeah.
Right. But and here's my biggest problem. One thing that I know that will ruin a good relationship is if a couple of people try to get into business together. Getting in business with friends and family is a train wreck, 70-80% of the time, right? So to have some governance there, and I think the evolution of this, I think it's somehow it gets to that eventually. But it's really interesting to see where it's at already with you, how far you've taken it already. It's simply amazing. We're out of time. I got 2 minutes left. I want to ask you one last question. If there's one thing that our audience and our community can take away from this, what's the one thing that you think people need to understand about yourself, your product, the marketplace right now, and where this is all going?
Yeah, I mean, I saw one comment in the chat. I'll just start with that. I mean, Eric, had a comment that you just have to jump in. I mean, I think my message is this is happening. It's a great opportunity. It's a strategic move. It's also, the tactical advantages are tremendous. And so, it's something, and again, it's going to be category specific in the enterprise. So that I think is going to happen. So there's going to be probably 4 or 5 different types of marketplaces that are going to service the bigger companies. Ripple is in the marketing and advertising experience space. And then, we talked about procurement. And so I think getting that on the radar and just jumping in, I mean, the advantages are real, and more and more people, especially, we talked up front about the changing labor market where people want to kind of work from home a lot. They want flexibility. You talked about the millennials and the work-life balance. Guess what that equates to? That equates to being freelancer, an independent worker. Yeah. And so you get to choose. I may want to take 2 months off around the holidays and not have to work. Yeah. So more and more with these platforms coming up, like a Ripple, more and more people are going to be more comfortable doing it. And so my message is jump in and get going and get ahead of the curve, because I think it's a big opportunity for companies and procurement professionals to kind of change the landscape and the way organizations are thinking about workforces.
Yeah, I love it. I love the takeaway for me is this is happening. Like, this isn't going away, man. We're at the beginning of something that I don't even think has hit the tipping point yet. This is happening. This is something that makes you look really, really smart in your next meeting with your chief marketing officer, your chief procurement officer, anybody who's looking for interesting ideas around, or your head of HR, interesting concepts associated with where the labor market is going and how to source new labor. This is a procurement no-brainer, in my opinion. All right, yeah. Shannon, thank you so much. We've got Shannon, by the way, everybody, Shannon and the Ripple team are our newest permanent residence partners at Procurement Foundry. So Shannon, thank you so much for supporting Procurement Foundry. We're super excited. We've got, tons and tons of our marketing and advertising category managers inside of Procurement Foundry that I think this will resonate with almost immediately. You're going to see Shannon and the Ripple team on all areas associated with permanent residence, blog posts, newsletters, all the things that we do for those folks inside of our community. Thanks again for your time today, Shannon. Absolutely amazing. I look forward to the next time we talk, because every time I talk to you, I learn something new. So really cool. Appreciate it. Mike.
Yeah,
have a great day. Thank you to the audience today. And if you have any questions, you can reach Shannon through the community, or you can DM me and I can put you in contact with him. He's got he's a digital marketing guy. You can reach him about 100 different ways. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks, Shannon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.